My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. This is the only channel dedicated to UFC fight picks and DraftKings lineups run by MMA insiders and professional fighters. Every week, I join Dan Kramer and Nick Newell, two longtime professional fighters that have fought at the highest levels on the planet, as well as Jacob Lyons, a skinny kid from Indiana. So join us every single week for our full fight card breakdowns, our individual fight card breakdowns, our betting guide, and our DraftKings lineups. We've absolutely been killing it in Monkey Knife Fight. Killing it, making a fortune every single week. If you don't know what Monkey Knife Fight is, it's daily fantasy, just like a DraftKings or a FanDuel, except instead of building a lineup and competing against thousands of strangers, it's just you versus the line. All you need to do is say if you think one of these fighters will land more or less strikes than what the line says. It's the easiest thing in the world.
Would you say we're getting that bread?
Okay.
We're getting the bread.
More than double your money with every single win. And you can even go up to 25 times your money. It's super easy. WeWantPicks.com/MKF. Promo code WWP. They will instantly match your deposit. This is the easiest thing in the world. And very quickly, before Jacob and I give you our picks and walk through some of these lines, check the other video we did this week. I brought on the man himself who sets these lines. Chris Riley works for Monkey Knife Fight. His only job is to do research and set these lines. So when we're playing, it's us versus him. So meet the man that you're competing against and then watch this video.
And Chris was lucky that I wasn't on that show.
Okay.
I'd have given these hands.
So we're just going to walk through a couple of these lines, a couple of these fights. For more detailed breakdowns, check out our detailed breakdown, right? This is just us walking through some lines that we like. We're just going to grab a few here. I'm going to grab the main event, Ciryl Gane versus Derek Lewis.
Woo, that one moved.
Line is 95.5 strikes for Ciryl Gane, 38.5 for Derek Lewis. All we need to do is say more or less, and then we 2.5 times our money. More than double our money with a win. This line moved. This is a hard line. It did move. It was much lower in the beginning of the week. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, I think we all agreed, or I think we all loved the more and more earlier in the week. Is that a fact? I think.
Yeah, we all loved the more and more earlier in the week, and
it was like 60 something.
It was a much lower line.
Woo! Yeah, that 95 is a little bit tougher. Oh man.
I think he blows. If it's a decision like he has, man, I think he blows past it because Derek Lewis is very hittable.
Yeah, he's hittable, but at the same time, you don't want to get hit. Ciryl Gane in those last few fights, like obviously versus Rosenstrike. Rosenstrike's got power, but he doesn't have Derek Lewis type power, so you can kind of get in the pocket a little bit. Obviously, Volkov, he wasn't really scared to get in the pocket because I talked about Volkov. It was touching Gane at points, and Gane wasn't really. I think Gane comes out and it's just like very, very tentative in the first couple rounds, really trying to understand that range. But this kind of depends on if Derek Lewis comes out aggressive because he talks about wanting to put on a show for the hometown fans. If he comes out and pushes the pace, this could get over really early or these could add up quickly. So it just kind of depends on who you think is going to win, how you want to play this. But the safer play is still probably more and more, I would think.
I agree. I think the safer, I've already played this. If you watch that video with Chris, I already did the more and more on this exact line. I think it is a safer play because I honestly think this fight goes to a decision like the others have. And 38.5 strikes over 25 minutes is not that many. It just isn't. And Derek Lewis he's slow, meaning not physically slow. He's like a slow starter. He's not very high volume guy. Ciryl Gane is a high volume guy. I do think he'll mix in wrestling here. And that will still be fine for the strikes because he'll end up on top if he gets those takedowns. So I've already played this, but for your sake, you click more and more. You enter your dollar amount. Let's just say $10. I've already done this. $10 to win 25. You lock it in. Easiest thing in the world. Let's jump into another fight. Excuse me.
Oh, bless you.
I'm very a lot of talking on this show. Let's go to the co-main event. Pedro Munoz versus Jose Aldo. Pedro Munoz, 94.5 strikes. Jose Aldo, 62.5. This is a high line. I'm actually going less. I do think this might go to a decision. There could be some back and forth. Pedro has high volume, stays in Jose Aldo's face. But I'm going to go with the less because I think what could end up happening is Pedro Munoz either freezes up because, this is a big moment for him fighting a former champion, or we have a Pedro Munoz stoppage. I feel like if Pedro Munoz shows up and does what he's supposed to do and how he can do it and how he fights, he can get a stoppage here. If Pedro Munoz doesn't show up and freezes because of the moment, both of these are going to be under. Jose Aldo, not typically a high volume guy. He's sort of a counter striker. He waits for you to come forward. Pedro Munoz will come forward. So I think the less is a decent line here. What do you think? Looks like you're looking it up right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at Pedro's because he would seem pretty confident that less for Pedro, which makes sense. I mean, it's 94.5, but he hasn't gotten less than 94 strikes since the Cody Garbrandt fight because it ended in the first round on the KO. So against Sterling, against, Frankie Edgar, against Jimmy Rivera, they're all over 94. So the trend would say to play the more. I honestly love the more for Jose. So we're different on this. I think the more is not the safe play for Pedro, but I think it makes sense. I think the safe play for Jose is more. He's talked about wanting to come out aggressive, and he, when he talks the talk, he usually walks the walk. So if this doesn't end in a stoppage, I think this is an easy more play. If you think it's a stoppage, then less. But I think this goes to decision. It's easy more.
So let's do this. I'm going to click on fantasy points. We've been looking at strikes. Fantasy points is another way to play this. So now we have 78.5 fantasy points versus 62.5 fantasy points. If we click on the I, here's the breakdown. Significant strikes are a little more than half a point. A knockdown is 12 points. Takedowns are 6 points. Defended takedowns are 3 points. Submission attempts 5. And here's your stoppages. So I don't think there's going to be a whole bunch of grappling at all. I think it's mostly striking. Maybe Jose Aldo defends a takedown or two. So let's say 0.6 points is the majority of this. To get 78 fantasy points, he would have to 150 strikes, 150 significant strikes. Okay. So I think less on the fantasy points for him makes the most sense. Pedro Munoz.
And if you think Pedro is going to win, there's a guaranteed 20 points for Pedro.
Yep. Decision win, 20 points. I think more on Pedro makes sense. So this is what I'm going to play. So
I would feel better about that.
Yep. And fantasy points is another option while doing this. So let's lock that in. I'll do $20 here, 20 to win 50. We'll lock that in. And let's go ahead. And now let's each just pick a line that we like. You have a fight that you want to take a look at, Jakey?
Well, I love those. What is it? The 5x5s or the 3-time I think it's
triple your money. If you go to slates, you have a bunch of options across the top. One of them, so you can 3 times your money, picking 2 out of 2, which is what we've just been doing, except this is a little bit more of a random matchup. You can 3 times your money. If you get 3 for 3, you 5 times your money. Let's grab one of those. You get Casey Kenny, Johnny Munoz, and Carolina.
Yeah, I don't like any of those, I don't think.
All right, let's click on this one and see if you get 3 different people. You get Tisha Torres, Cyril Gane, and Pedro Munoz.
I'd go, well, I think we would both go more. Would you say?
Yep, more.
And then we're split on this one, right? So you would probably play the less because you've already said the less, and I would play the more.
Yeah, this is a tricky one. I do like 5 times my money, though. Let's just do more. I'm going to do more here. I switched to fantasy points anyway. So let's do the more here. I'll do $10. $10 to win 50. Easiest math in the world. We will lock that in. And what I am going to pick is Knockout Kings. So if we go to all-day slates and jump into Knockout Kings. Knockout Kings. Actually, let me back up very quickly. If we go back, if you don't like those 3 fighters, right? We did all-day slates. If you go to prelim slates, you're only going to get fighters from the preliminary card. So if we do 5 times, here it is, 5X on the prelim card, we have Carolina, Bobby Green, and Rafael Fiziev. So if you don't like the 3 that you get matched up with, mess with the preliminary card slates, the main card slates, the early prelim slates. You have a few different options to make sure, you get 3 fighters that you like the most. So I'm going to do Knockout Kings. Knockout Kings is the easiest thing in the world. All you need to do is pick any 3 fighters, any three. And if one of them gets a knockout, you make money. So let's take a look here, Jakey.
You pick one, and then I'll pick one, and then you pick the third.
Well, this is my actual money here. So
I know, but I'll give you a good one.
I'll go. I think Alonzo Menifield's the obvious one. So
Right.
Alonzo Menefield, I'll lock in. And we only need 1 out of 3 here. So who do you got?
Honestly, there's 2 ways I would play this. I would either, because I love the Kape Ode for a finish, and I think it's a TKO finish. So you can either play,
Double that up.
double those up with Minifield, or if you want to play 3 separate ones, I'd go Fiziev, which you guys are a little bit disagreement about Bobby Green in that fight, but I like Fiziev to be able to finish him pretty easily. So that would be my pick. But what would you say if you, because you don't like Rafael?
I've done this before where regardless of how I think the fight will go, all I need to do is get 1 out of 3 for a KO or a TKO. So you're right. I do think Bobby Green can pull off this win, but he has to fight a very specific fight to do that. Where Fiziev is live for a knockout the entire time, essentially. So he's not necessarily a bad pick for this. He's actually a very good pick for this, even if I disagree with the outcome. Because again, I only need 1 out of 3.
And this is a little bit of a, not to step on your toes too much, a little bit of a tricky card because
It is.
there's not a lot of big knockout people in this. There's a lot of grapplers, so there's not a lot of big KO people in this card.
I completely agree. I think the other one would probably be Miles Johns.
No, I would go with either Kape or Ode, whoever you think is going to win that fight, because I think it's going to be a fire fight. I actually have a bet on both of them to get a first round finish. So in my mind,
then let's do this. I'm going to get rid of Fiziev and we'll double up that fight and see how this goes. So I'm going to lock them in. And now I have picked 3 fighters. I can say all 3 of them will win by knockout, and I get 6 times my money. That's obviously impossible in this situation. If I want to risk 2, I can 2.5 times my money. I'm a conservative guy. All I want is 1.25 times my money, 25% return. If I play 100, I get 125 back. I just need one. I'm just going to do $20. $20 gets me 25, free $5 as far as I'm concerned. Lock this in. And you're right. This is a tricky card. We don't have the Menefield one is probably the only one that's like close to a sure thing.
And then, I mean, if you could always pick Derek Lewis too. I mean, as a third option. So if you wanted to, I think maybe Menefield. If I was playing it, I might play Menefield, Fiziev, and Lewis, and hope for one of them.
Yeah, that's not terrible. I just really don't see that happening. So those are some of our picks for UFC 265. Let us know yours in the comments. We can't go through. There's 13 fights. We're not going to hit every single one of them, but we did do the breakdowns. Check the breakdown videos.
Yeah, and if you have questions on a fight, just put it in the comments and we'll answer what we think more or less.
Yep. Let us know in the comments what you're doing. Ask us questions in the comments. WeWantPicks.com/MKF. Promo code WWP. They instantly match your deposit. If you put in $50, they give you 50. You don't even have to spend your real money. Just play everything we just did with the free $50. Then you double it, you triple it, whatever you want to do with it.
Get that bread. Get that bread.
Money. Keep the money. Super easy. Literally costs you nothing. WeWantPicks.com/MKF. We will see you on Saturday.